I just started a screen capture and that's recording, and I will share my entire screen as well. So I'll pause this and share my screen. Alright. Okay, so I'll just have this on the side because some people kind of come in later than everyone else. Okay. And this Skype is how I'm actually connecting to the audio because it's easier to control from this software. Anyway, alright, I'll start with questions I've received through email, as I said, but feel free to ask me anything. Again, for the people who just joined us, I usually do not have a very set curriculum in this web conference. It's more like going with user questions. It's more like a workshop in a sense. So please feel free to click on the chat button and ask your questions anytime, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Alright, so Yossi, I don't know if you're here yet, but because all I see are viewer 1, viewer 2, and whatnot as names, but hi Yossi, okay. Viewer 9 is Yossi. Sorry, viewer 7. Alright, Yossi said, can you talk a bit about how one should set up the database to make best use of reporting tools? So it depends on what you mean by reporting tools. We do, if you have explored Ragic yet, we do have a few types of reporting that you can see if you hover on the report button and click on it. Like, oh, by the way, I'm using a Ragic database for my Q&A as well, but I'll be using an empty account to build things. So basically, we do have a few numerical analysis reports like dashboard report, ranking report, pivot table, and line graph. So those are usually useful if you have a lot to do with numbers, and they are more like compare and contrast kind of tables that you can use for numerical fields. And again, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Ragic, but the reports can be generated for the data in one of your sheets. So a sheet means a set of data. So one sheet I have here is the Q&A, where I just put the questions I receive. So it's kind of not very suitable for reporting, but if I had a filter on this sheet, then I could generate a report from the filter I have set. So I will show that in a bit because I don't really have good data in here to do that, but I will in a very simple database I'm going to build. So just hang on there and I'll get back to that. So for the entire total newbies in Ragic, I am going to build 2 sheets and kind of build the relationship with them. We call that linking. We do have a few ways of linking types for building relations between data in different sheets. Alright, so that means that you can choose to, as an example, if you had a list of customers and a list of products, you can choose to link these data into a sales order sheet where you can choose which customer is ordering which products. So they can be ordering a list of products, and then you can actually grab the customer's data from the customer sheet and the products data, like their prices, from the products sheet. So that's a great advantage when you want to work with different sheets and use that continuously without really having to like type everything manually. Alright, so I'm gonna build that very quickly so that we'll have a basis to do your reports. And then I do have another more niche question about access rates for different users in your database, so I'll get to that too. And I see that viewer 9 is asking importing access database. Well, as I know, you can export your data from Access as CSV files, and we'll do importing in a little bit here, so you'll be able to see the import process. Alright, if everyone's ready, then I'll be starting. So I have a totally empty Ragic account here, and I'll be creating a sheet for my customers. So I'll just build that example that we had just now about the customer's products and sales orders. This is one of the most basic things that covers most of the beginner type of information. So if you're new to Ragic, please hang on. Alright, I'm going to create a new tab. So what tabs do is mostly organizing your different sheets. I'm going to create a new tab that says sales and save it. So this is kind of like a folder that is going to contain my sheets. I will have my customer sheet over here, and you can see that I do have an option to create a new sheet from my Excel file. This means I can actually import a file to create the sheet, or if you don't want to import your file, you can also not click that and then say create, which will take you to a form page. We'll do the customers with an import, and then I will create the products sheet on its own. Okay, so you can see both ways. So I'll be importing data. So viewer 9, that's going to be related to your question about importing a database file. Well, we don't really have a direct way to import your entire Access database, but this is going to be useful when you're getting started. You can just import your Excel file. So the import steps are pretty straightforward. When you get used to it, it's going to be really easy. So the first thing you should know is when you want to import a spreadsheet file, the first row is going to be the headers. So that means the first row, 1, is going to be the header. So a lot of times I see people trying to import files and not being successful with the import. The main reason for that is usually they have a lot of empty fields here with images, like their company banner and stuff like that. So those are not really useful for an import. If you try importing a file like that, then the first row is going to be blank in the software side. So the first row should be the headers, and then the rest of them should be entries. This is how most of the people kind of keep their data anyway. So we try to make it easier. I'll zoom in, by the way. We'll try to make it easier for people to import their things. Alright, so I do have a few test files here. I'll show you my customers file here first. So as you can see, I have my first row as their the headers, and the rest of them are just random data I found. One thing here is a lot of times I see this mistake. Usually if you keep people's information with their first and last names, it's gonna be a problem even if you use their full names. Because let's say we have Anna Elsner here, I can actually have customers, multiple customers named Anna Elsner. So a good thing here would be to add a field that is unique for each customer. I like to use a number for this, like a number that is in a sequence, like customer 1, customer 2, and whatnot. So I'm going to do that in the first column here. So I'm going to insert a new column and add a customer ID. Alright, so I'll start with Kayla. It doesn't really matter at this point because I already have a very long list and I would like to, kind of populate this to give each person a number. Alright, so I do have 250 customers and each have their unique number to identify them from each other. Now, I do know that some people who are just getting started with their business might say, oh, I don't really have that many customers, but then they come and say, oh, person John Smith is getting mixed with this other John Smith and I need a solution. So this is the solution that you can do in the beginning. If you want to, this number that I generated, this can also be done by Ragic, but it's easier to do in the beginning when you're getting started. So I'll save this file first and import this. So I'm importing the entire customer sheet. And again, I didn't create anything on my Ragic database yet. I just created a tab and I'm going to upload this under my tab as a sheet. Alright, so this one, I do get questions about this step. The import process is a few steps, and this is to just check to see if the first row is indeed the header. So you can just click next if it's this one. It will only show you a few rows, and that doesn't mean that you only are importing 20 rows. It means that it's just showing you to confirm if indeed the first row is the header. Alright, this blue part. Alright, so I'm going to click next, and it's going to check to see if we want to change the input type for each field. So what that means is Ragic has a few well, it has more than these, but Ragic has a few field types that you can use. In this case, I don't really need to change a lot of them. The states, I could make it a selection. Selection is kind of like a drop down like this, where New Jersey would be an option and California would also be an option. And the birthday is a date, which is great. So I'll click next on this. I'm not going to change anything. And I'll import this sheet. Alright, so 250 entries are pretty quick to be imported, and that's done. So I'll just click on this link that it gives me. So you can see my data is imported now inside a sheet. Alright, so let's see what that means. As in your Excel file, it kind of looks similar, right? So the first row you can see is the headers, which are your fields, and that you can see when you're scrolling down, that stays there. And every row is an entry. So what Ragic does is you can click on any of the entries to get to the form page. So the one previously, this is the listing page, and when we click into it, it's going to be the form page, and you can add new fields or change the design of the form page. So I'm going to click this change design button on the form page. Whenever I change the design of a form page inside a sheet, which is our customers, it's going to change for every single customer in that sheet, alright? So let's say if we had made this email address an actual email field, so that it hyperlinks to my email thing, state name. Let's kind of change the names of these a little bit. And save. And if I exit, you can see that the design changed. Oh, the changes I did, this email is a link now. And if I go back, that change is applied to every single customer. Alright, any questions about this so far? Zip code had comma, is that a problem? James, I think, you're right. Let's see. Oh, they imported the zip code as a numeric field, so I don't want that as the formatting, so I will change it to free text. And it will become a free text field without the number formatting. So you're absolutely right, and you can always like change the formatting or how it's displayed. For example, some people I know don't like to use the year, month, day. This is the international version, but you can kind of like switch the formatting to say, for example, day, month, year, and then that will be displayed in day, month, year. So you can check all the formatting options. We do have a lot of field types over here that you can create. If you want a specific formatting that is forcefully applied, you can choose special format. For example, if I had a phone number field here, I'm not going to save this, but phone number. Usually this one is the most commonly used if some data entry people are typing in just numbers. The system is going to format the number with the hyphen and the parenthesis for the area code. Viewer 7 is asking, is there a way to change the date format globally? Yeah, you'll have to change the date field in every design that you have. There is no change all fields of this type globally kind of setting, unfortunately. So if you have a few date fields in different sheets, you'll have to change them separately. I'm sorry about that. Viewer 9 is saying, I have clients with multiple lines in their records along with thousands of records. Will the import create the multiple lines? Oh, I do remember your fitness question. Hi. So, oh, I think you're mentioning subtables. If you want to import into a subtable, the best way would be to create a new sheet from the subtable and then import into that new sheet. I'll show you what I mean in a bit, alright? Because it might be a little bit complicated without showing. Alright, so again, we do have different formats for every type of field, so you can check those out. We do have default values for each of them too, if that is a bit more advanced though. Alright, okay, so we're all done with our customers, and if I wanted to create another sheet for my products, I'm going to do that from scratch, alright, without importing yet. And I'll not check this time and create. Alright, so for my products, similarly, I'll need my product ID, product name. Well, let me just check my cheat sheet quickly, because I do actually have the file here that I want to import later. So product code name, oh, there we go. Sorry, this software I'm using is having a hard time catching up if I go too fast, and if you can't see anything, just let me know, alright? So as you can see, when I typed unit price, Ragic knows that I want to use a money type field. So when I'm typing into here to create new fields, just aligning them wherever I want. Just click on an empty cell if you want to create a field somewhere else. But basically, I'm just writing on empty spaces to create fields with my field names. And this part is, just like before, the place where the value is going to be shown. So I'm kind of creating a template for my product sheet. It's the design of my form page, and it will be applied to every single product that I have in this database sheet. Alright, so we have the country of origin after unit price, and the product description. And I guess that's it. Yep. Alright, so let's save that. and let me create a new entry. So if I click the new button over here, I can just manually type in my own product. Let's say I wanted to create a new product. Let's say before this entire sequence. Let's see. So you can see that my fields are pretty bare bones. I need to type everything in, which is not very practical in some cases. So you can actually change the field types. For example, if I wanted to have some options for product family, like I have over here, only chocolate, candy, and chewing gum, right? So I can change this to a selection field, which I talked about earlier. It is the options that I need to write. So chocolate, candy, or chewing gum can be options for me, and when I'm filling the form, I can actually select chocolate instead of typing chocolate every time. All right. So think of what you want for your own practical uses, and it makes data entry easier if you select the right field type. And I'm kind of going to change the country of origin as well to a selection. So we have Switzerland, Belgium, United States, Germany as our options. And something very important here, if you spell Belgium this way and Belgium this way, these are going to be different options. So if you have inaccuracies in your data, you probably need to check that first. And if you had like Belgium like this and little Belgium over here, then the little Belgium would be inaccurate, and you would probably need to change, oops, change how you spell things. For example, if you had Belgium space, that would also be something different in the software. So please make sure that your data is accurate first. Okay, so that's all my options. Let's save that and exit. Alright, so the way to import my existing data on my spreadsheet is going to be similar. I just need to go to the sheet itself, and we'll go to Tools, Import Data from File from here. So we do have a lot of tools here. You can check them out when you do have the time. James is asking, can you create a product family with several product types? For instance, the product fits several categories. Sure, you can. You can actually, instead of using the selection, you can use multiple selection here. So if I had clicked here and saved, then it would have a drop down with checkboxes where I can actually select from multiple product families as like so. Alright, so I'm not going to be doing that, but one thing to know when you're importing into multiple selection options is if I had an entry, let's go back to our Excel. There it is. No, not this one. Okay. If I had one product with multiple product families, I would need to write them by separating them with the pipeline. So it would be chocolate pipeline, which is this character. It's right next to, in my keyboard, it's on the left side of enter. So you can see the pipeline icon, chocolate and candy, for example. Alright, so if you're importing into a multiple selection field, then you would separate each option with that. There are a few Excel tricks you can use if you have them separated by commas, for instance, or like have a space that separates that. You can kind of do a find and replace, I think, or something similar to have your data correctly formatted. Alright, so I'm going to change that back to selection, and I will import all my products through, again, tools, and import data from file. And it's going to go to the same import process, alright? So I already know that I formatted my sheet correctly. I will select that products file and upload. The first row is the header, yes it is. And then, okay, so the product code, you can see that some of these are, some of the titles are very similar to the others, so make sure that the correct one is selected. So the product code is my product ID, the name is a name, manufacturer, and product family. Let's see, is there anything else? No. Okay, I'll click next from here. And it's asking if I want to create a new record with the same key value or renew my data. So what this means is, when I'm importing into an existing sheet, Ragic is going to check to see if I want to import new data or if I want to update the existing data in my Ragic database. So right now, the records in my spreadsheet do not exist over here. So if I click either of these, it would do the same thing. It would create new records for my products listed in the spreadsheet. But if I were to, for example, change the prices, like in this example, if I wanted to change a price in my and update the values inside my Ragic database with the value inside the spreadsheet, then it would check to see if the product code existed and then would update the changed values. I hope that's clear. I'm going to click next in this step and import. And it's just been imported. So as you can see, I have everything set. Okay. And from here, I will create the example that I talked about. I will create a sales order sheet with the data I have in customers and products. So I'm going to create that sheet from scratch. Okay, so one thing I want here is to have a sales order ID so I can kind of differentiate one from each other, but I don't really want to enter data every time, so I'm going to change this field type to auto-generate. So this means that whenever I create a new record, Ragic is going to generate a number in a sequence, so 1, 2, 3, 4, for example, but I can choose from one of these formattings instead. So I want my sales order to say SO, and then the date, like 2016, 10/13 for today, 001 for today's first order. I hope that makes sense. So that's the formatting I applied. You can type in your own formatting, that's also possible. And sales order date, which is today's date. Alright, I'm going to save this. Actually, I want this to be default to create a date as well. Okay. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do with this sheet is going to link it with my customers to see which customers is actually doing the sales order. Alright, so for that, I want to be able to select the customer's ID and then autofill their name and address. Alright, so I'm going to click link and load, where you can actually select a key field. So in my case, I want this to be the customer ID. And as you can see, this is the source sheet that I'm going to grab data from, and it's going to populate into sales orders. So I'm creating this first link, which is the customer ID. So I'm going to select a customer's ID, and then I wanted to populate the rest of some of these fields with their first name, last name, street address, their city, state, and zip, and their email address. Alright, so all these gray fields mean that whenever I select a blue, the key field, the customer ID, these fields are going to be populated from my customer sheet. Alright, let me show you an example. So the first sales order is from customer ID. Oh, I clicked on this arrow, but if you type in a customer ID, I think it starts with C, yeah. If you start typing in a customer ID, then you can see all the options. And number 104 is Vera from Missouri, alright? Or you can select from a list. For example, if I was looking for Vera, I would filter here, and you can select her, and all her other information will be filled from my customer sheet. Alright, so the next thing I want to do for the sales order is I want to link multiple products so that Vera can order some of the products that I have in my store, right? So we're going to do link and load again, but we're going to use a different method now. So I click the products tab here, and this time I again want to select a product ID, and I want the product name and family and price to be populated in here. But I want to have multiples. So instead of doing one link like that, I'm going to link these side by side so that I can select multiple products. You'll see what I mean in a bit. So I'm going to ignore this white space that's right next to product ID where the value is normally going to be. And I'll click on there to link the product name, the family, right next to it, and the unit price. So you can see that the white spaces that my value is going to be normally shifted downwards, and I have multiple white fields. Okay, I'll save, and you'll see the same thing happens in my sheet design, and exit. So right now what I have here is an option to select one product, and it's gonna look like this. It will, let's see, why did the family not load properly? Let's see, does it have a family? It does. Let's check my link again. Interesting. Okay, it seems like my product family isn't loading correctly. I don't know why, but normally it should. I'll check this out later to see why it's not happening. But, okay. So I can select multiple products, and as I select all these products, you can see that my list has more space. Oh, there it is. It seems like there's an import problem with my product family. Let's see. I'll just quickly do a mass edit to, wait, hold on. Sorry about this. try again. If I selected chewing gum, I can mass update all the product family to chewing gum properly. And then if I cleared that filter, would they all be chewing gum? Yes, they would. Okay. So normally this doesn't happen, but I just want to make sure that I do everything correctly right now. Okay. By the way, I'm checking the status of the mass update over here. Okay, so, sorry. Let's go back to our sales orders and see if this is correct. So if I wrote 331, yeah, it is selecting the correct one. Alright, so if I reselected these, they should be correct. Alright, there we go. So we have multiple products now, and what I need here is to calculate the quantity of the order for each of these items, and then have a total for each line, and then add all of those up into a total so that I can actually charge them. Alright, let's go do that. Let's click change design, and I'm just adding a new field into this subtable over here, quantity and subtotal, and we need a total here. Alright, so this is also going to be a money field, and subtotal will be unit price times quantity, right? So in Ragic, we do have formulas like in Excel. The only thing you have to really know about formulas is that we always refer to the field header. So the unit price is not the places where the values is going to be, but I need to refer to the field header, which says unit price at D13. So D13 times the quantity, which is E13, is going to give me the subtotal. And for the subtotal, if I wrote F13 into the total formula, it's going to calculate the addition of this entire subtable, however long it is. Alright, so if I wrote 3, 5, 2, and 5 again, then my subtotals are for line items. So 5 times 3 is 15, and the entire addition of the subtotals is calculated in the total. Alright, so this is a basic way of creating structures in Ragic, and as you can see, I used 2 other sheets, and if I hover on the key field on that other sheet, I can see their information from the other sheet. So that's basically the most basic things again. And about the reporting, if I create another sales order, we can create another report to say how much we sold, for example. Okay, so as you can see, I created a new sales order for another person. And if I go back to the listing page, I will see all my sales orders. And if I don't really want to see all this information here, I can change the design of the listing page. So I'm going to kind of do that because I don't really want to see their street address necessarily. Their city, state, and zip can stay. Their email address I probably don't need to see at a glance. And I'll save that. And the listing page will be easier to look at, and if I click on any of the entries, it's still going to show me all of the related necessary info I need. Alright? So the listing page is only a way of displaying data for you, and the form page is usually what you need to edit while designing the form itself. Okay, So for the report tools, again, back to your question about the reports, if I click on any of these numerical reports, it will probably show me a lot of it usually shows the total average and other things for each numerical field, but you can cancel these out if you don't really want to see the price average. You can just remove that, or the average of the total or quantity, doesn't really matter, right? Right, so you kind of can remove the things that you don't really want to see. You can change these graphs to see what the total was. So I kind of want to see the total and average for each state, for example. So you can kind of play with whatever numerical fields you have and then save that as a report if you want to. If you save it as a report, it will be shown under the Reports tab over here. So this is your usual sheet tab. You can have multiple tabs and move the sheets around if you want, but the reports are saved under the Report tab. And I'll show you different types of report now, just to make it clearer. There's also the ranking report. This shows the customer ID and the number of reports. Viewer 7 is asking, is the report based on filtered results or on the entire sheets? It is based on the filtered results. So if you want to see filtered results, you can filter the sheet first. If you want to see the entire sheet, you can just apply no filters and then, or clear filters if they're applied already, and generate a report, and then it will be shown based on the entire sheet. Okay, so maybe I want to show the number of records per city. So you can do that too, and you can kind of change the way this is displayed. So the reports are pretty basic in that sense. There are also, let's see, there are also address mapping and label maker. So these two are useful if you are doing shipping. The label maker uses one field to, well, I don't know if it will show this properly, but oh, there we go. So we have 2 sales orders. Let me generate this for customers actually. It will be easier. So if I created a label for a street address, it will basically, according to the data you have entered here, you can also change this to point for printing. It's easier sometimes. So it basically generates a label for each address. So if you're doing shipping and have standard packing labels or address labels that you have to print, then it's pretty useful. For the address mapping, we usually need the full address. So the entire full address with the city, state, and zip is very useful. So in North America, I think it goes as street address, and then city, state, and zip. You don't really need the country. So that's how Google Maps also checks on your address. So if I wanted something like that on my customers, because I kind of have the street address, city, state, and zip in different fields, and that's not really going to fly here. So I'm going to change the design and add a field called full address. And using a formula, I can concatenate these fields into one. So again, I'm going to refer to the field headers, which is A4. So it doesn't matter because my new address field is an address type, but it's still a string field. I'll use street address and then put an empty space, which is quotation marks. You can either use these quotation marks, like the single quotation or double quotation, but it doesn't really matter, just be consistent while writing all your formulas. So if I use the double quotation, I need to use it for each space. So I'm putting a space in between these so that they will have the actual space. A6 plus space plus A7. So this is a formula that I implemented just now, right? So when I exit here, it's not going to calculate for previous entries I have unless I did something to edit that field. So you can see it kind of like concatenated the entire address, and if I click on this, it will actually go to Google Maps and show me that address if it exists. Well, of course, this is from a fake address name generator thing, so it doesn't really exist, but that's the point. So if you click on the full address, it actually goes and shows you the location in Google Maps if it's an address field. So as this is not calculated for all my customers yet, I can do this by going and clicking on the field with the formula and clicking on apply this formula to all saved records. Now just make sure that you're doing this only when you want to apply a formula to each of the records you had in that sheet. Sometimes it's not the case. If you want to recalculate a formula and overwrite a value, that's sometimes not something you want, so just be careful. And it's going to calculate this address value for each entry I have for every customer. Okay, so that's complete, and I'll exit from here. And if I wanted to generate an address mapping, that would basically, okay, so it's saying Google Maps is slow in this sense, but for generated addresses like this, I can actually, I think I can zoom out here. Let's see. Yeah. So you can see that it actually maps all my customers according to that address field. And I can change how they're displayed. For example, if I wanted to show their first name instead of their customer number, I can do that. So Bonnie lives in Chicago here, apparently, according to her address. Alright, I hope that makes sense. So this is very useful, again, if you're doing a lot of shipping work. Let's see, we do have a few questions now. Is there a way to print customer demographics? Of course, you can actually filter for customer demographics in your sheet. I really don't have that information on my sales right now, but let's say that I wanted to calculate their age and show a report according to that. If I add an age field according to their birthday. Okay, so this is a formula. It's a kind of special formula. It's a numerical field, and for this I will need today's date minus their birthday, which is A9. And I will need this, so this is a date field, right? Like the field I'm referring to is a date field. So date fields are processed as days when you're using formulas in Ragic. So I'll need to divide this by 365.25, and then I'll also need to round this up. Okay, so this should be the correct formula. And I only want to display, no, I think the round is correct. Let's try. Yeah, next time I am going to only have 50 entries. For some reason my internet is pretty slow today, and calculating 250, well, that's done on the server actually, but next time as examples I'll have less entries. Okay, save, exit. The second formula I just, okay, viewer 70. The second formula I just added takes today's date, and it's calculating the number of days between today and their birthday and saying how many years have passed. So that's why I divided by 365, because I don't want it to display days, but I want it to display years. And if I divide it by this, it will give me the amount of years, and I'm rounding that up because otherwise the number will be displayed as a fraction. Yeah, that's the full formula. I just know it by heart, so I wrote it really quickly. Okay, so if I wanted to show the demographics again, you can, I guess you can use the ranking report for that or the pivot table. It doesn't really matter. So if I wanted to see their age by the number of customers I had, then we can see that we have the most amount of customers we have are 24 years old, and that makes the 10% of our customers. Does that make sense? No, I just added it once, as you can see, for my customer sheet, because when I edit the form page once from change design here, it will edit the design of each of my customers in the sheet. So if I went to Maria, she'll also have an age field here. And if I went to Kathy, she will also have her age field here. So that's why I recalculated the age after I created that formula, so that it will calculate for each of my customers and I don't really have to enter each of them again because we have their birthday information. Yes. One thing you should know about this, if you're using a today formula, that will be calculated when I calculate it today. So it's not going to update all the time. So as time passes, for date formulas, this is the case. As time passes, it's not going to say, oh, Jennifer had a birthday, so she's not 22 anymore, she's now 23. No, that's not going to happen. We do have a way to recalculate formulas periodically. That's a short script you can add on your, in the JavaScript workflow in the backend. So that's something you can look up in the guide. But know that it's possible to kind of do that. It's just more practical if you kind of manually go in and recalculate these types of formulas from time to time. That's only because I'm using the today formula in here. Alright, because today's date is going to change, but today's date was calculated today. Tomorrow it would probably be the same because her birthday is in March, but you might need to update those types of formulas periodically. Alright, so I hope that answered most questions about reports. About the label maker, I think that makes barcodes according to a number you might have, the barcode number. The to-do list, oh no, sorry, label maker makes the labels I just showed for shipping. The barcode is something else. It's a field type, actually. That's also doable. The to-do list uses a date field, which is empty. So if I had an empty field here saying contacted customer, and if I have a team that calls each customer to see if their data is accurate or anything like that, you can have the empty date field, and then if you create a report for to-do list, the empty date field would serve as a checklist. So whenever you check it as done, the field that was just empty, the date field that was empty, will populate with the days, the current date. So for example, if I had a call center person who calls 10 people a day and check them off, and then another person calls them a week after and check them off, they won't show up in the list anymore, and the empty date field would fill with any time they were called. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I'll delete this, and yeah, that's mostly how reports are done. There are also two other ways to create reports as you folks see it. So if I wanted to export my entire data, or if, as someone said, like if you wanted a demographical thing, for example, if I wanted everyone aged 24, you can just search for the age 24 to 24 and export this entire thing. So you can download the entire thing, or you can download some of the entries. You can also download some custom fields. So let's say if I wanted their age, but um, not their street address, for example, you can download those fields only. Okay, so that's one type of, it will download as an Excel file, so it's kind of like the file we just imported. Other than that, there's also a mail merge here. So if you wanted to create a custom form or custom documentation that will need to be filled by your database in separate files, this is the best way. Here you can add your own Word or Excel templates and then download your database according to a filter or the entire thing. It depends on you. And export your data with that template. Okay, so viewer 7 is asking, can you do a carriage return in this formula for full address? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Can you explain? Viewer 8 is asking, can you add different reports into a page to make a dashboard? No, that's not really possible at the moment. Viewer 17 is asking, I'm sorry, can you show the beginning of how to add the contact task? Sure. So the task thing, I think you mean the to-do list, is just based on an empty date field. So if you have a date field on your sheet design in the form here, contacted date. So I'm not going to fill this field, it's going to be empty for each of my customers. So let's say I have a kind of a new campaign where my sales representatives need to like contact each customer and call them, right? So I need a way to track if a customer was called or not and when they were called. All right, so I can create a to-do list report. And since I have that empty date field, the person who is calling these, let's say they called 10 people, right? They just check them off that day after calling them. So I check them off, and then you don't really have to save or anything. You can just exit the sheet. Exit the report. Let me just save this first. Report name is called customers to be called, alright? And coming to another person's questions, the filters that you want to apply can be applied here when you're saving the report. Okay, so it's saved under my reports, and the people who I checked off are not on this report anymore because I already checked them off. So if I go back to my customer sheet, that empty date field I have for the people that I checked off is going to be populated with today's date. Yes, it does. And the other ones are still going to be empty. Alright, no problem. Can you put the country on a different line? Yeah, you can. Well, I don't have the country information here, but yeah, you can certainly add a new field called country and put it on a different line. Someone is saying we have a database with 3 subtables in Ragic. Can we create separate sheets of this? Yes, you can, viewer 6. So I'll show you how to do that. Let's say this customer, you are the person who with the fitness thing, right? Okay, so coming to your question, let's say we have a gym, okay? Because this person is asking, well, okay, this is a very general thing that each of you can understand, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna delete this context field because I don't really need it. Save. By the way, you can just drag and drop fields. The formulas will not be affected. It will just update with wherever I'm referring to. If you drag and drop, just don't be afraid to change the formatting of your form, alright? So a subtable is, again, if you remember the thing I created in sales orders, if I create a field saying weigh and date. Okay, again, reminder, we have a gym. Okay, let's say we have a gym and we have to weigh each customer according to whenever they need to be weighed, and we have to like enter separate data for each time. Alright, so weigh and date, and again, like the other subtable I created by linking, but this time I'm doing it from the design mode. I will ignore the value on the side and create a new field here by typing weight. So this is a numeric field. What did we talk about? Body fat percentage. This is also a numeric field, but this is going to be a percentage only. So to keep things simple, I'm just going to leave it this way, alright? I'm not going to have multiple fields here because it might be confusing. Alright, so if I had this person coming in, Bonnie, on the 6th, and she weighs, I'm going to use kilograms because I'm not really familiar with pounds, alright? So she's 62 kilos and has like 20% body fat, and then she comes in today, and she's weighing 61 kilos and 19.5. Oh, that rounds it up. Let me change that to have decimal points. Exit. There you go. Alright, so this is a subtable in Bonnie's thing. But if I wanted to see every customer's weigh-in information, I can't really see that from my main listing page here because they're in a subtable here, and every subtable, let's say, has like more than 10 entries, and it's going to be really complicated. Alright, so the way I can view everyone's weigh-in information, let's actually create a nice little header here. Alright, so we have each person's weigh-in information in their own sheets. And let's add another one here. Let's say she came in last month and her weight is 70 kilos. And next time would be alright, so the way I can see every customer's weigh-in information is if I click Change Design and go to Sheet Linking Tools, I can create a new sheet from the subtable I have here. So this is going to select the customer ID and show these fields in a form when I create it automatically, alright? So it shows me all the entries in the subtable and it ties it to the customer ID according to each of these. And if you need to like add more information from that sheet, for example, if I wanted to add their names and ages, then I can do that from the parent sheet. So if I go to Sheet Linking Tools and click the customers under Link Fields from Parent Sheets, I can add their first name and their age. Okay, so those are going to be fields that are only display only. So you'll only be able to view those because it's tied to the customer ID with this field. I hope that makes sense. And viewer 17 is asking, viewer 9, I don't really mean, I don't really know what you mean by a total loss for each. What did, please let me know what you mean. Viewer 17 is saying, oh, okay, is there a way to have a blah blah? Okay, that's something different. How much weight they lost? Well, sure. In a sense, that's doable by the running balance method. I think that would be most useful. Let's see. Let me think a little bit. Okay, for that, I will do a few things that might seem complicated, but I do have a tutorial on this. If you get confused, you can refer back to it, or I will put this video on YouTube when I can, and you can look at that if you want later on. So for that, for how much weight one person lost in each time, I will first need their last weight, right? So it needs to check the last weight, and then it will see the difference between today's weight and that time's weight. Alright, so that's an entirely different type of structure from what we have here. So if I go back to the customer, alright, let's say that Bonnie was weighed on the today, okay? So I will need today's weight and body fat percentage to see how it compares to next time. Does that make sense? Okay, so what I need is the last value from this field, and I will need the last value for body fat percentage over here. Okay, so I will write current, because this was today, right? Current weight and current body percentage. I'll just write BFP. I think you use that term, right? So these are both numeric values. Again, this is a percentage, so I'm gonna use that formatting again. And the way I refer to a subtable's last field value for one field is, if I go to current weight, the formula is gonna be B15, right? B15 is the weight. So if I wrote B15 only, it would give me the sum of all the weights here. I don't want that. So I would need to write last. This is a formula that is specific to subtables. So if I wrote last B15, it will give me the last value that was entered into the weight field for the subtable. And the same goes for last C15 for the body fat percentage. And I'm going to calculate both of these because I did not do that before, and exit my design. So that's going to calculate in the background for each of my entries. So most of my subtables are empty. It's going to take a while though, because it's still checking each entry. So let's see, for Barbara, let's say that she was weighed today, and she's like, again, let's use 70 to 22. Not sure why. There we go. So as you can see, it takes the last value from here. Alright, all good? Okay. So who else did we added data for Jennifer, and her last weight was 68. Alright, all good. So alright, I'm not done with this yet, so I'll go back to my weigh-in information. Alright, so here I need to find a way to pull the previous weight and previous body fat percentage. So I'm gonna go to link and load, because you know how I generated this sheet from the subtable from my customers? Okay, so we use the customer ID field to be the link, right? So I'll need to kind of grab the current weight and current body fat percentage from this sheet. Exit. And I need to write, I'm gonna change this to previous on previous here. So that it makes more sense. Yes, this is the linking part. So again, I had the customer ID linked because I created this from the subtable and customer sheet, right? So I want to be able to use that ID to create these two fields to be populated automatically from the customer's information. So I'll have these data here, and we're just going to calculate the difference. So this is going to be linked when we are creating a new entry. So their previous thing was this, and when we're entering a new weigh-in information, we kind of want to calculate the weight difference and BFP difference. And the weight difference is it's numeric, and I want D2 minus A5, and the body fat percentage difference is a percentage. No, yeah, I did calculate this before. It's not a percentage actually. It's gonna be, no, it is a percentage. So D6 minus A6, no, D3 minus A6. Okay, so right now there's not going to be a difference for Barber or anyone else, I think, because we all have their previous weight and BFP the same as their current, as you can see. But if I add a new entry for Barbara, now she's going to have the BFP, and why is my first name and age not making? Oh, there it is. Okay, so let's say she was weighed in today, and the weight is now 68.5, and her body fat, let's say, is 21% now. There you go. So the difference is calculated here. And there you go. So if you want this to be seen in each subtable row, I think there's a way to do that as well. So if we go back to Barbara and change design, the weigh-in information has these available, and I'll add them to the subtable so that you can actually see the differences. Oops. There we go. So this is also told in my running balance tutorial that we have on YouTube. We also have the link on Learn Ragic over here. If you hover on start, you'll see the Learn Ragic thing, and there are a bunch of videos on the right side. So the number 18 calculating a running balance is also related to this. Alright, so, okay, viewer 17. You can have different rights for different user groups for each type of sheet. So it doesn't really matter how those sheets are linked. You can just configure the access rights for each user group from the design mode and go to form settings and access rights. You can have different types of user groups, and these rights are, if you get confused a little bit, you can click this. Oh, there's no link for this. Anyway, we do have a guide about access rights, but basically the bulletin user is what you usually want. Bulletin users can create and edit their own entries and view all the other entries. The viewer can view everything but cannot create anything. The survey user can only create and edit their own entries. So if you have users that shouldn't be seeing other people's, for example, their sales accounts or anything, then you want to add the survey user. No rights means no rights at all. And the admin can create and edit all entries, but the admin is different than you, who is the account owner, right? So you are a system admin, and you can actually access the back end of the design so that you can edit the sheets. But the admin has only rights to see the sheets you created. They cannot go to the design mode over here or configure things like you do. So be very careful to make sure you don't give additional rights to anyone. If there is a particular thing that you want to hide from users, you can usually add a filter that can be fixed. So whenever you add multiple things, for example, if I wanted my customers to only see the chewing gum because I'm out of all the other things, this is a very extreme example, but if I only had candy and chewing gum available but not the chocolate, I can search for it and save as a view, which is a fixed filter. So if I have a fixed filter applied, the user who is looking at this cannot clear that. I can clear it because I'm the system administrator, but the user cannot get out of a fixed filter that you apply. So in some cases, some people like to have different versions of the same sheet. So if I had like a manufacturer's login, um, oh, okay, if I had different people looking at the same sheet, but I want them to see different things, you can create a copy of them. So if I go change design, I created a multiple version from the sheet linking tool and use the same data source on the new sheet. This is going to be important. So this kind of shows you the entire sheet, but uses the same pool of data. So it has all the same products, it has the same settings I had, but if I wanted them to see all the products, then I can remove the fixed filter and I have a copy where I can like assign different user rights that can only see these two categories. Okay, so another person. Yes, viewer 9. If you create the subpages, you can import into them. You just have to make sure that you have the key field. So remember how I created the weigh-in information with the customer ID to be the link? So if you wanted to import into this, you have to have the customer ID on your on the sheet you're importing. So you have to have the customer ID. I do recommend having a weigh-in ID. If you want to use, for example, the date and timestamp or something similar to that, that's pretty good. But I usually recommend using a separate ID for every piece of information you're having. Anyway, yeah, you can import into this and it will display automatically under your customer when you import because you will have the customer ID. Let's see if I missed any questions. Right, if I created a database for search, yeah, sure. I can show you very quickly to display how the embed works. So this is for people who want to displays. Let's say we wanted to display our products on our website, all right? So I want to embed this sheet so that people can search for products on my website. Let's embed this. So the embed settings are in Tools and embed the sheet over here. And I do have a few different ways of embedding. The database viewer is best if you want to display things like products. This is showing entries in a list like we have over here. Or if you have a lot of pictures, you can make it a gallery. It kind of looks like this, or a block layout, which if you have a lot of information, you can add them, or an album layout, which is best if you have images. So this is kind of like a gallery. Um, so this is how it's displayed if you want to show all the entries. If you want people to search for your database, like seeing a form, and you can kind of change the available fields here. So I don't want them to search for the country, but maybe for the manufacturer. And I don't need them to see these fields, for example, in the first place. Okay, so I can create this in the way I picked the fields. And then if I click next, and choose the table layout, for example, you can change the layout if you want, but basically when you create this, I'll show you this example. It will look like a bare bones form, like this, a query form. So the product, let's say I'm looking for all the chocolate that is between $1 and $25. And I'm not looking for any other criteria, but you can fill all of them if you want. They're not required. And if I search, then it will give me a list of these products according to my criteria, and also you can again change the how this looks. Let's go back and show all the other embedding versions very quickly. So there's also the database form. So this is for people who want to have other people enter data to their database. For example, if I had a vendor that's going to sell me these products and he needs to like fill this, or maybe I have employees that are going to like add new products to my database, then I can give them this form and they can fill in a new entry that will be saved in my database. For this, you need to make sure that they have the correct user access rights. So if they're a viewer, they won't be able to enter new entries. Viewer 9, I'm recording all of this. I don't think we have a video on embedding types right now, but I'm recording this one right now. And if we go back, the database search is just the search engine box, so it looks like this, basically. And if I click next, and, well, I don't have a URL to test it, but I can use this one, I think. It kind of displays the results, and if I click on it, it shows the entry. And the last one, which is the raw embed, looks like the one exactly like the one in Ragic. So, hold on. Raw embed. There you go. So it kind of looks like the form like it does on Ragic. So it depends on if your settings. So if you want people to create a new entry, you can embed that instead. If you want them to search, the search sidebar is the best to show. Like so. So all the products, and then this is basically the Ragic interface just embedded into your website. Yeah, that's all of our embedding options. Again, I would like to remind more advanced users that we do have an API that is available. So you can actually use, if you do know programming, and you want to create your own interface and link to your Ragic database, you can use our API. That is mostly advanced, but some people like to do that. So any other questions? Let's see. Once you have, yeah, I answered that. Is there a way to have emails sent automatically based on status of a cell? Yes, there is. It's a snippet of code. We do have an example for that. So let's say, no, wait. So it depends on the example, but we do have a way to create notification emails for users. I don't think that's what you are looking for. Okay, let's hear that example. Oh, my coffee's cold. Okay, while viewer 17 is writing their example, is there any other pressing questions anyone else has? Because we're almost at time. We are ending this in a bit, so viewer 7 is asking, is there a way in creating labels to put a name on one line and the address on another line? Oh, for the label maker? I think you might be able to do that with the concatenation. So, name plus address can be a field, and then we can have the first and last name, right? The full name. So A2 plus, again, the space plus, oops, A3, so their full name, and then you want their address, right? I'm not sure if paragraph breaks are allowed in formulas. I actually never tried that, so that might work, I'm not sure. Let's just try the full name, last name, and address in here for a second. So let's calculate this. For a line break, what's the line break? JavaScript, I think, because they use JavaScript things to formula. Because I know that HTML codes aren't allowed, so I can't use BR. Oh, maybe this might work. This is an old design mode. Leave. No, HTML doesn't work. Let's try this. Not sure if it will work. You guys are really cool viewers, you know, like a lot of times when I do this office hours presentation, some people just don't ask any questions and I need to like come up with things. But you guys have been awesome. Yes, this worked, actually. I never knew this. So it's /n. Again, I'll show that so you can take a note. /n inside quotation marks makes a line break. Apparently, I did not know that. So this works in our formula, and yeah, you can generate a label from that one field. I hope that helps. Let's see, what else? So viewer 17 is saying, for example, for a vendor, when they sell a product for them to the first time, an email would say, "Congratulations, we made your foot for sale." Yeah, sure, that can probably be done with JavaScript. Um, we do have a JavaScript workflow when you right-click on a sheet name, when you hover on it, and JavaScript workflow, and we do have some snippets of code that you can have a look at. If you need help with the programming, I'm not a programmer, so I don't really know the exact way of doing that, but we do have a snippet of code. I'll paste the link in the chat box now. So in Learn Ragic, we do have this, creating a custom automatic email notification. That's a guide for that, but this is, I think, according to whenever an entry is saved. So this example is this, but you can quite possibly write a check to see if this value is not sent yet, and or like sent for the first time or whatever, then send this. You can write your email with HTML included. Um, so this is a sample, but if you need extra help with that, just email support@ragic.com, and one of our developers would be assigned to answer that type of question. And that kind of action seems pretty simple, so they will probably just reply with a snippet that is similar to that. Alright, no problem. And anyone else? Last questions? No? Well, thank you everyone for joining. Again, this has been really fun, and yeah, thank you for very actively joining. I enjoyed this very much too. And I will be putting the video of this soon. Well, I don't know what my upload limit here is, but I will try putting the video soon, and will well, you could check the YouTube for updates, or I might announce it on an email. Alright, thank you all very much. I, again, really enjoyed it, and thank you for all your questions. If you need an email, please leave your email here. You can PM me from the Whisper. If you click on the all in the bottom of the chat box, you'll see my name, Baron, and you can just leave your email in a message. That would be great.